أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين.
In the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the most merciful, and may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon His last and beloved Messenger Muhammad, and may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon you all. This is the 9th episode in the Quran and Practice program, and it's entitled Satan's Influence on the Islamic Nation. Now, as an introduction to this episode, when I say Satan's influence, so many Muslims, they will have the idea that I will talk about Satan coming into the body of a human and coming and going out from it, and about silly matters that Islam is far away from it. So people have a misconception about Satan, and they believe in guesswork and so many wrong things about Satan. Now, in this episode, I will show, inshallah, the correct understanding for this as derived from the last revelation of Allah, the Almighty, the Quran. Now, if we think about the Noble Quran, we find that Allah, God Almighty, almost in every chapter of the Noble Quran mentions Satan and warns us about this enemy. And for example, in the Noble Quran, Satan is mentioned about 74 times. 74 times. And when you ask a Muslim about Satan, he would tell you, the majority of Muslims, he would tell you that I don't know how he affects me. He just knows that he exists, but he doesn't know where he is or how he affects a person. And I wonder here, that if when you ask a Muslim, for example, about a matter, a certain matter, he would analyze it and give you conclusions and research and analysis about this topic. But when it comes to the Noble Quran, he doesn't care if he understands or doesn't understand. He just reads the verse, but he doesn't ponder upon them. So I wonder about this. Now, coming to understanding Satan and his influence on the Islamic nation, Allah Almighty teaches us in the Noble Quran the truth about Satan and how he affects us, such that it can be concluded from the Noble Quran that every person has a voice of oneself. That's the voice you speak with. It has a certain tone, speed, the languages you know, and the same voice you hear in your head when you are thinking quietly to yourself. And that's normal, and that's the voice of oneself. Now, it can be concluded also from the Noble Quran that every person has a companion devil, which is a devil, Satan, assigned to you at birth and stays with you till death. It's like a companion in your journey, in your earthly journey. So this creature is like a human that is a companion for you in this journey. How does he affect you? Allah Almighty teaches us in the Noble Quran in chapter 17 verse 64, which states, and agitate and befool whom you can of them with your voice. So Allah Almighty teaches us that this companion devil, it tricks you and with his voice. So he talks to you, this companion devil, he talks to you like a person talking to you, and he tries to trick you and befool you with the thoughts contained in his whispers. Now somebody might ask, where is this companion devil? I don't hear him, I just hear myself. Now Allah Almighty gives us the answer for this in the Noble Quran in chapter 114 verse 4, which states, from the evil of the whisperer who hides. So Allah teaches us that this companion devil, he talks to you, but at the same time he hides from you. He doesn't want you to feel his presence. Now, from a scientific and logical point of view, how can he accomplish this? He can accomplish this by matching his voice with regards to tone, speed, and language you know to the voice of yourself. So you hear an idea in your head, an idea pops up in your head, and you think that yourself is telling you this, while actually it's your companion devil. Now somebody might ask, how can I distinguish between my voice and the idea that I hear in my head, coming from myself or from my companion devil? How can I distinguish between the thoughts in my head, the source of these thoughts? Allah Almighty gives us the answer in the last revelation, the Noble Quran. Says that firstly, your mind is under your control, like your muscles. When you want to think about something, you think, but the whispers from Satan, you just pop up in your head. You don't think about a certain particular thing, but just pop up in your head. So this is from your companion devil, from Satan. Another thing, by analyzing the thoughts contained in these whispers, Allah Almighty teaches us in the Noble Quran in chapter 2 verse 169 states, He, i.e. Satan, commands you what is evil, sinful, and say about Allah what you have no knowledge of. So Allah Almighty teaches us that this companion devil, the kind of whispers, the thoughts that he puts in your head, ideas of harm, to hurt yourself and other, ideas of lust and perverse sexual ideas, and to say about Allah, God Almighty, what you have no knowledge of. So we see that if an idea pops up in your head containing ideas of harm, to hurt yourself and others, ideas of lust and perverse sexual ideas, and to say about Allah what you have no knowledge of, so all of these ideas are from your companion devil and not yourself. Now, having understood this from the Noble Quran, coming to the symptoms of the effect of Satan on the Islamic nation. Now, Satan wants for a person to do evil, harmful acts, and sinful acts, and say about Allah what a person has no knowledge of. So let's analyze about harm. Now, harm means to hurt oneself and others. For example, the companion devil or Muslim comes to him with a voice matching the one he thinks with, and he tells him, for example, that this life is hard and your conditions are difficult, so why don't you take drugs and alcohol just to make you forget your problems. Now we see that Satan comes to you in a form of a well-wisher, a form of an advisor. And Allah Almighty states in the Noble Quran that Satan comes to you in the form of an advisor, that he wants you to be happy, to forget your problems. But he does not want this for you. He wants exactly the opposite for this. He wants you, when you take drugs, to harm yourself and to harm others and to inflict injury on yourself and to be in a lower state. So he does not want you, but he comes to you in a form of advice to make your heart soften to what he's going to say. Also, he comes to a person telling him that your life, you live in this life, you need to have fun and so forth. So he wastes your time in doing things, unproductive things, just wasting your time, and he wastes your life. Another thing about the symptoms or effect of Satan on Muslims in general and people as a whole, that he comes to a person in his mind telling him ideas of lust and perverse sexual ideas. For example, he tells him that you have to enjoy this life, you live in this life, and having a girlfriend and doing sexual acts, it's not a big deal. It's life. It's something you enjoy. So you see how Satan comes to you in a form of something that he wants good for you, but actually he wants you to be in pain and despair. And adultery and illegal sexual acts, they have a destructive influence on society, on the person. So another symptom that Satan wants you to say about Allah what you have no knowledge of. For example, he comes to you with the idea you hear in your mind, as if you are thinking to yourself with this idea, telling you, for example, that envy, for example, he gives you a wrong understanding for envy, that envy is the act that a person has powers, mysterious powers, and he can inflict damage on you from a distance. Now, he wants to distort the purity of the religion. And when a person hears this, he has a kind of strange feeling about religion, about Islam, that Islam teaches that a person has mysterious powers that can inflict you at a distance. Also, he gives you a wrong understanding for magic, that also people have certain people, they have certain mysterious powers that can inflict damage on you, and this is something silly, and it's nothing from the Noble Quran, and Islam is far away from it. Now his aim in this is not to educate you, no. His aim in this is that to make you take partners with Allah God Almighty. How? Now if you believe that a certain created object has powers comparable to that of the Creator, because the only one who can benefit you is Allah God Almighty. So when you believe that a certain object that can harm you or benefit you, then you are associating partners with Allah God Almighty. And this is one of the greatest, this is the greatest sin in the sight of Allah God Almighty, is to associate partners with Him, giving a created object qualities comparable to that of the Creator. So we see that Satan, your companion devil, does not want to educate you. He wants you to be in pain and despair in this life and the hereafter. Now somebody asks that when I do adultery or do these kind of illegal sexual acts, that I feel so much happiness. So how can this be wrong? Allah Almighty teaches us the answer for this in the Noble Quran. Allah teaches us in chapter 113, in the verse states, and from the evil of the blowers in the knots, and from the evil of the blowers in the knots. Now this Quranic verse, so many people misunderstood this, and associating with magic and people doing kind of magical actions. Well, actually this Quranic verse has to do that when Satan, your companion devil, he whispers to you, his voice is an electromagnetic radiation, electromagnetic wave. Now in the human brain there are knots, and these knots, they are responsible for producing feelings in the body. For example, if a certain knot is excited, then it produces chemicals in the body that causes the relaxation of the muscles and the feeling of happiness. While the other knot, if it's excited, then it will produce a feeling of tightness in the chest and a feeling of sadness. So your companion devil, when he whispers to you that committing adultery is okay and that you are enjoying your life, he blows in the knot, he stimulates the neural nodes in the brain to produce a feeling of happiness, and that you are in a kind of state of relaxation. He wants you to convince you more and more about his lies. Also, for example, if you are thinking about Islam and about prayer, he puts a feeling of tightness in your chest to make you frightened of what you are thinking. Now, so having understood this from the Noble Quran, we come to the cure for this. Now the cure from the effect of Satan on people does not lie in what people understand, like hitting a person and doing these silly acts, and these acts are far away from religion and from Islam. But Allah Almighty teaches us the cure for this in the Noble Quran in chapter 7 verse 200, where Allah Almighty states, and if an evil whisper comes to you from Satan, then seek refuge with Allah. So Allah Almighty teaches us that the first thing to do when a whisper from Satan comes to your mind is to seek refuge with Allah, which means that to remember this guidance you are hearing and the guidance of Allah Almighty from the Noble Quran, and to remember that the idea that just popped up in your head is not from yourself but your companion devil, and it's all false and it's designed to harm you. The other thing to do, Allah Almighty states in the Noble Quran, do not follow the footsteps of Satan. Like, do not carry out the thoughts of Satan that you hear in your head. For example, if he whispers to you an idea in your head as if you are thinking to yourself with this idea about committing adultery, about killing people, about abusing people, then don't do that. For example, he comes to Muslims in their head, telling them, their companion devil, telling them that to hurt each other, telling them, for example, that that person, he wanted to abuse you and abuse your family, so why don't you go and hurt him and kill him? And he whispers to Muslims to be divided in sects, and he makes kind of arguments between these sects, and his objective in this is not the truth, but he wants to make Muslims hurt each other. So if these ideas come in your heads, then you should not carry them out. You shouldn't carry them out, nor say them, nor do them. And after a while, your companion devil gives up on you, and you become of the guided ones. So we see, brothers and sisters, the guidance of Allah from the Noble Quran, and the beauty of the message of Islam. And to know more details about this topic, please visit my website at www.quran-miracle.com, and you can email me at zquran@yahoo.com, and may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon you all.
إن أعجبك الفيديو لا تنسى الإعجاب والاشتراك في القناة.